Welcome, my friends, back to another episode of The Alarmists, Conspiracy Theories and Coffee. No coffee today. I'm too high strung. Today was the inauguration. Joe Biden is now our president. Trump is gone. C'est la vie. But today we have something even more important. We have a trailblazer, a woman, an iconic woman who has set the stage in a way that no woman I know has done before in the world of entertainment. Her name is Susan Blond, and Susan and I got to know each other when I started out as a journalist, and she was one of the big people in the public relations world, and she still is today. She got her start with Andy Warhol. That's right, the great Andy Warhol. She has done so many things that other women haven't, and we're going to get into it today in a great conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd love you to meet Susan Blond, and with her, the director of Susan Blond, Inc., Joshua Plant. Hello, guys.
Hello, Jesse, and hello, the world.
Susan Blond, you are, and I was reading your Wikipedia page. I'm blown away. I didn't even know half the things about you until I read that page. You are so natural and so down to earth, and you have done so much that no woman I know of in this industry has done. Give the viewers a little snapshot of yourself on what you bring to the table in terms of public relations. You've worked with Michael Jackson, you work with United Artists, you work with Epic Records, and you worked with the great Andy Warhol and starred in some of his films. You've done so much. Give me a little hint and let the viewers know who you are.
Okay, you find a new artist, right? And that can be any kind of artist, but the kind of artists I work with the most were musicians, right? And I guess Andy Warhol, plus my father actually also taught me a lot of this stuff. He kind of said, make a person feel like they're even bigger than they are, right? So when I was a little girl, we'd go down the street and we'd say, whenever we go walking, the town is always talking about the Blond family. So I learned to kind of promote from when I was little, And then Andy Warhol, he would introduce me, no matter introduce me or introduce anyone he met as the president of the company. That could be the day that they started as an assistant, right? And no one corrects you when you do that. So with a person with great talent, whether they're known or not, I try to make them feel like they have something special and I can help them get it out to the world.
And you know what? You did that with me when we met back in the day. And I was just starting out, and you took me in under your wing like you had known me forever. And what I love about you is that you have that natural feeling, and when you talk to somebody, you make them feel comfortable. You make them feel like the most important person in the room. I love the fact, though, when I read the Wikipedia page about you, how Andy Warhol said he's going to make you a star. You remember that?
You met me, yeah.
Yeah. Tell us about that, because I think have that guy say that about
that
you.
Day, look, Paul Morrissey. I had a boyfriend. He was a cab driver in Boston at school, and he hung out with this guy Ed Hood, and Ed Hood was the center of Cambridge, and he was also in Warhol movies, and like that. So then it went from that to getting to meet some of the most interesting people in the world. In fact, I met Danny Fields there, a lot of the great writers that we all work with.
I remember Danny.
Always work with, and some of the great artists like the Modern Lovers, and Peter Wolf was around at that time. So that was the beginning of like getting excited and getting there. Anyway, Paul Morrissey was one of the visitors. Paul made most of Andy's movies and a lot of other movies. And Paul said, I'll introduce you to Andy when you come back to New York. So I came to Andy, and the minute he met me, he said, I love your name. I love your voice. You're going to be in our movies. So I think he probably says that to everybody, but I was lucky enough to actually be in some.
When he said that to you, did you really think it was going to happen?
I guess I wanted it. It was a dream of mine, right? So you kind of make happen what you want,
Self-manifestation.
Was writing one of his books. He said, this girl from Queen, she wasn't like, he didn't say it wasn't a great beauty, but I mean, compared to the beauties that they used, but he could tell that Andy liked me from the start, So
what was Andy Warhol really? What was he like? Give we know Andy Warhol, the icon, the image, but we don't know Andy Warhol, the person. Give us a little snapshot about who he really was.
Okay. he was interested. He'd ask you a lot of questions, right? And he'd say silly things. He'd always think that like you went to bed with someone or something like that. So he would ask the most crazy things, you know.
Like what?
But he um, he made you feel like if you worked really hard, like I would be miserable about some boyfriend breaking up or something like that. And he'd say, forget about that. Just work hard, become rich and famous, and then you can choose whoever you want. You know, so this were big wisdom that I
Sounds like my
needed and
Jewish
that
mother. He says, "Ah,
everyone
forget
likes
about
those,
it."
you know. So
Now, when you finally got to star, tell what are the names of the films that we can look up, we can find.
okay, you can look up. Well, Paul Morrissey made most of his movies. So something like Madame Wang's, I have a really great part in, right? And then there's 40 Deuce and I don't know, one where I sell enchiladas or something.
You
But
sell
the biggest
enchiladas?
movie was Andy Warhol's movie called Bad. It was actually his last movie, and I threw a baby out of the window in that.
That was what you got. You became famous because of that.
That
I
was
thought,
that
you
was a
know, and
big
then you
thing.
ended up working with Michael Jackson, who almost did it in real life.
Oh, don't say that. My darling Michael, I'll protect him till the end. You know, I love Michael so much. But Andy liked Michael, though Andy asked Michael if he was a fairy when he met him. You know, I forgot about that. A friend of mine just told me, you know, a lot of friends, including Joshua, they remember certain things that I don't remember. Some of them are current things and some of them are really far back. But I don't know if you know Steve Manning, and there was a whole
I
group of us,
remember
but he
Steve.
said that that's the exact thing he said to Andy. So I was shocked, you know.
So Andy Warhol actually asked Michael Jackson if he was a fairy. That's
Yeah.
pretty wild.
But I don't even know if he knew what a fairy was. Like in the very
Well, there's a
beginning,
lot of
he
ways to
got mixed
interpret
up
that.
between Robert Frost and Andy Warhol, and it was like nothing in the world other than they're two great artists, right? But he kind of mixed things up, or he'd always ask everybody if they love children, if why they didn't have children, and like I could have had children those years, but we were all so busy trying to get to the top of the world and having so much, you know, work with such exciting people and trying to get ahead to break the barriers, right? That we didn't think about having kids for the first, you know, all those young years. But anyway, Andy, I mean, Michael would say, why don't you have children? Don't you love children? You know, in a very naive way, not, you know.
Not like the horrible things that have been said about him. I know it's
Right.
terrible.
Right. And I don't believe that any of it happened, but, you know.
Yeah, unfortunately, the media does what the media does, but it's good to have people to defend his legacy, and I'm glad to hear you say that. I find it fascinating that you went to the Fame High School. Is that true?
That I went to what Fame,
The
did you say?
school they did the movie Fame about, the LaGuardia High School.
I went to music and art.
Yeah.
And it was at 135th in 135th and Convent, way up in Harlem. I lived in Queens. I took a bus that was a half hour into Flushing, and then 5 subways. And I loved that school so much. I just, that was the place for me. I love that school. I'm still friends with all the people that went there.
It's amazing. What do you think of what did you think of when that movie, the first movie came out? It must have been pretty
I like that movie, but that was more see, it became music and art and performing arts became our 2 separate schools, right?
Okay.
So LaGuardia actually, which for many years, LaGuardia has been those 2 schools merged. But when I was there, we didn't have all the entertainers. We had artists, right? So
and that's what the world doesn't know, that you are an incredible artist. You had a show. Your first show was at Harvard University.
Yes, I did, but I didn't go to Harvard, but I did have a show there.
How did you pull that off?
My husband, Barry Bloom, went to Harvard, but that was a great show. And all the modern lovers, you know, the great people who were hanging around in those years did it. And it was all, you know, 10-foot paintings. I have one of them right here, actually. You know, very big paintings, all rolled on with various rollers. It was like a big, great point.
Well, one could argue that it was because of your artistic world that you were in and the artistic talent that it brought you back to New York, where you met Andy Warhol. Is that true?
Well, I got invited into the Whitney Independent Study Program. That was only around 6 students, art students around the country got into that. So I got to paint. And for the first 6 months after school, I was in that program. Then I had met Andy, before when I was still in school, I met him. But then Glenn O'Brien, the late Glenn O'Brien, but a fantastic guy, he actually asked me if I'd like to come to work for interview. So when I went to work for interview, thinking I'd be with Andy more, it would help my painting. That was really the end of my painting for many, many years, right? Because New York was so exciting and the music business was so exciting and the parties were so exciting that the idea of painting just didn't appeal to me that much at that point anymore.
So, and then you ended up working at Interview Magazine, which is was a major force for so many years. Ingrid Sishi and so many great interviews that came in there. Talk about Interview Magazine, because a lot of people don't know this, and it was an amazing force.
It's still around, Interview, or at least I haven't seen it in the list. Josh will have to look it up. See, there's kind of millions of things that maybe I don't know. Anyway, very famous people would interview other very famous people, and it was like it was very exciting. So working for Interview at the time, also you'd have David Hockney, the great painter, would be there one day, right? And then you'd have a president's son or President Ford's son, or then you'd have all his friends like Basquiat and Keith Haring and all the young kids, right? You just had all interesting people. And I say, it seems that the people who get to the top of a field get to meet all the other people that are the top of the field. So that's the way it was every day, though. It was very exciting.
That was also when New York was amazing. I think that New York, unfortunately, it takes 5 minutes for New York to go to hell, and it'll take years and years for New York to come back. But it is a very resilient place, and I know one day it probably will be back to what it used to be. But
it'll get back. New York is the greatest city, and we're all really enjoying. Look, I have the beach outside my window. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's so beautiful. I've never been in the Hamptons, in Sagaponack for such a long period of time, and it's magnificent, right? But the city is just the greatest place, and I can't wait till things come alive again. And
it's going to take time. I mean, this COVID. How are you handling the COVID situation?
Well, we can't. We're having real trouble trying to get a shot, but we're on 25 lists, and now I think some of them will. I think today we almost got a little bit closer, so I got a feeling like it might be. In fact, Carol Kleffner came up with a solution today. That's the great thing about Facebook. Once in a while, because you're reading what people say every day, if someone says they got a shot and where they got it, right? This was with 2 friends. All of a sudden, you realize that's probably better than all these other places we've been trying. Because if there's an active shot, or if there's places that people are actually getting accepted and getting appointments.
I actually just got my first shot of Moderna.
You did? You must be very connected. I'm going to come out to Quag. It's not so
Yeah. Let me tell you, I was freaked out because they had nothing out here, and I had to drive all the way to Jamaica, Queens, like driving to hell.
Wait, to where?
To Jamaica, Queens.
Oh, that's good.
They had nothing. They have nothing set up out here yet. And I had the choice of waiting or getting it. And I just want to get this over with. I want my life back. So I drove out to Jamaica, Queens. And I'm telling you, it was a very, very daunting experience. You really feel like you're driving into a war zone. They set it up at Hillcrest High School. I never heard of this place until that day. I have to say, though, I got to give them my compliments. They set it up incredibly sanitary, very, very organized. The only thing that freaked me out was the size of the needle, which was this big.
Oh, don't tell me that.
That's what I've heard too.
That's what we're
oh my God! I said, "You're going to put that in my arm?" Oh, but you know what? I had no side.
We've seen it on TV. They don't make it look so scary.
No, well,
and you're a bigger guy. Imagine me. Well, I'm still way like whatever.
Well, just don't look when you get it. It doesn't really hurt. It's real quick, and they have it down to a science. But, I have to say they handled it really, really well. I had no side effects, just a little soreness in my arm for a couple of days, but that was it. I'm more worried about the second dose because I've heard about the second dose being...
You're a strong guy. You'll be
fine. Yeah, strong like bull. Anyway, it's all going to be good. The more of us that take it, the quicker we're going to be able to get back to some normalcy. I miss traveling because that's something that I, did regularly for 30 years. And suddenly, it's like getting the rug pulled out. I can't go anywhere. So I think that a lot of us are chomping at the bit. I know a lot of people who used to travel. I was just with Gary Springer on a show we did. And Gary's like, please let me go somewhere. Send me somewhere, please, por favor. He told me that the Egyptian Film Festival invited him. He said, I'm going. Take me, please, send me. All the way to Egypt. He actually ended up going. But anyway, look, we're all in this together. I really hope that New York and the entire country slowly come back and start to look at the positive side of things, and we get rid of this divisiveness. And I think the more and more we get this vaccine, and the more and more we can start getting our lives back into a little bit more of normalcy, I think we're going to see a better side of America than we've seen.
Oh, I felt all of us felt so positive about today. It was so perfect, every moment of it, that I just think America's going to be just the way we want it to be, and we're going to believe that things are, there'll be truth. I love this idea.
Very important word.
Being true, and people caring about people, and people not promoting themselves, even though we talked about look, there's a certain part of promoting you could do, but not when you're the president. When you're the president, you have to run the country. And I really think President Biden's going to be fantastic, and Kamala, I'm totally excited about her. And the whole thing today was awe-inspiring, especially the young girl, Amanda Gorman, the poet. I mean, she was unbelievable. Yeah. We wish we could sign her up. That would be our favorite.
Yeah, you got to represent her. Let me tell you what you could do. Now, Josh, as a young person, what is your take on all of this?
Well, what, the presidency or Andy?
Well, just and what do you? How do you see things? Because you're the youth, and we need you. The America needs the youth. We're putting our faith in in young people. To be smarter than us.
Every generation learns from each other, in reverse or forward fashion. Now, I was very worried for 4 years about how all this divisiveness and lying was taking over the general media, and how the media obsessed over it. So Trump got all the attention about just what he was saying, not the really bad critical things that needed to be focused on. And I think today we all let out a big sigh of relief. There's a sane person in the White House. And it really, I've been seeing a bunch of alerts come in as we're speaking. He's already at work. He's not on the golf course.
Well, I just worry that, even though he's out of the presidency, that these insurrections are going to continue, and we have to find ways to temper them. Temper it, diffuse it, not feed it. And I think that's a thing that we have not had. But look, we've faced challenges as a country throughout its history, and this is a great challenge. And President Biden and Kamala Harris, our vice president, have a great opportunity to do something extraordinary. When was the last time a president and a vice president, being a woman, which is historic, and being a woman of color, which is even more historic, together have this chance to bring us all in a place where we can start to be positive and start to be unified? And I think this is the thing that excites me. I want not divisiveness. I want
that's it.
Unification. I want us to be. You can have a different opinion, Josh and Susan. It's okay. That's how we learn. That's how we grow. But it needs to happen now. And you know what? Nancy Pelosi, she gets a lot of bad rap, crazy Nancy, whatever, but she did make a comment, and I couldn't help but notice. She said if Trump had not left, our democracy might not have survived. Would it? Wouldn't it? We'll never find out. But take those words, appreciate what this country stands for and what opportunities it gives us, embrace it and run with it, and share it with your best friend. And be nice. Be nice. Is it so difficult to be nice? You know, right, Susan?
Look, I always believed in that. I think it's one of the reasons I did okay in this field, right? Is I just believe to treat people in a civil way, at least. It amazes me when people don't, but there are a lot of people like that. So,
but you have heart, Susan. That's why you've succeeded so long. You had it from day one. I'll never forget it. That's why I wanted to have you on the show. It was so important to me because you stand. You represent. First of all, you represent the women in this industry who is a leader. You're a trailblazer. You're a Renaissance woman, and you're still doing it. You still haven't lost that humanity. You still haven't lost that compassion. I see Josh smiling. I guess I don't need a script, huh? You're the director of public relations, but you don't have to say a word because it's the truth.
Yeah.
You know what? You said it earlier, Susan. The truth matters, and that's what we have to remember. When I heard
when we started, there were hardly any women in the industry. I mean, there weren't. Certainly, a vice president was such a big thing back then, right? I think it was just like. So I helped. I really do think I helped so many women with their starts, right? And then kept up with them, and so many of them are still, good friends of mine. And so it's just rewarding to see people that, and they remember the funniest things that I told them too. It's not always how to get someone on the cover of Rolling Stone or something. It might be like how to take a picture or how to smile. Or I'll tell you, with the masks, I find that not smiling really an unbelievably hard thing because I'm used to making a person feel better by smiling. And I feel better with smiling. In fact, Joshua knows I even tell people we're supposed to smile when we're even talking on the phone and people can't see you because people can feel that in you. These are the kind of things I say to whoever through the years, but they remember those things more than like how to get someone on the cover, or on Saturday Night Live or, a million hits somewhere. Like it's that stuff, right?
It's amazing because of the masks. I find myself looking at people's eyes more than I ever have.
Yes,
and I find it fascinating because I'm looking at their eyes. I'm looking inside them many times just to get something back because a smile has always been the thing that would warm your heart, make you feel good, and now it's taken away. And, so there's a lot of things we can take from all this and remember, I can't wait for the day where we don't need that mask anymore. But unfortunately, I think it's going to be a couple of years at minimum, So, Susan, give me one wish that you would love to see happen this year with the new, the new administration and America in general, and just what's in your heart. Share that as a closing statement for our show.
Okay, my heart is that life should be beautiful. Basically, that with the new president Biden, right, and Kamala, and all the people that are going to that the government can agree that certain things have to be done. So if they can stop fighting and make it easier for all of us to stop fighting and to realize that with the pandemic, if they just really can get unified on it, I know that there's going to be a way to take the numbers way, way, way down. And then
here's something I want to just add. This just came over the wires. Biden just signed an executive order making it mandatory to wear a mask.
And not just in the government, everywhere?
Everywhere. Just now. My wonderful producer, Noah Platt, just sent me a text as you were talking. So perfectly timed.
That's great. Because the idea that if we work together on this and if somehow the House, if somehow the different people are voting can unite on certain things, and this is the kind of thing, or whatever executive things. I don't know how that
Oh,
got done
actually, he
today.
just
Was
corrected
that an
me on
executive
federal
order? Or,
properties in government. Sorry, not public everywhere. All right, well.
it wasn't public information.
Just on federal properties and on government institutions. All right, well, it's a step in the right direction.
But that people should, that we should be healthy, and that the jobs should come back, and that we should have hope, and that we can still be artists, that in whatever art we are doing, right? But that we can know that art is important. Don't let that go away because there's problems everywhere. And then with whatever foundations or things we're working, try to help other people in whatever way you can. And that might be being on the board of something, or it might be, going to a homeless shelter and feeding people. But try to give,
Yep. And you know what? You know what I wish? I want to hug my 90-year-old mom. It's been 11 months since I've been able to hug my mom. Now that sucks.
That hurts.
Yeah. Because I don't know how many times I'm going to get to do that.
Yeah.
So I can't
Well, I
wait.
pray that you can get together. I mean, I pray it's pretty soon.
Yeah.
You know.
So anyway, I don't mean to end on such a somber note, but I love talking to you guys today. Susan, you're amazing. It's so wonderful to reconnect this way. The Alarmist, Conspiracy Theories and Coffee, Joshua Plant, the director of Susan Blond Inc., and the great Susan Blond herself on a wonderful episode. You are going to love her for a lot more. She's still a trailblazer. She's still doing it. Susan Blond, Joshua, thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much.
Stay safe, and let's pray that we have a wonderful, wonderful year ahead of us.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.